The doctor's office was quiet, except for the low hum of the air conditioner. Lisa and Greg, seated side by side, anxiously held hands, awaiting the doctor. Finally, Dr. Fisher entered, holding a folder. "Unfortunately, the test results show that you won't be able to have children naturally," revealed the doctor with a serious expression. Greg let go of Lisa's hand, running his hands through his hair, frustrated. "How is that possible?" he questioned, his tone rising with confusion and anger. Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes, but she tried to stay strong. "Is there anything we can do, doctor? Any treatment?" she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor mentioned some options, but Greg was already overtaken by anger. "This must be your fault, Lisa. You've always had health issues," he accused, unable to contain his frustration. Devastated by the accusation, Lisa quickly stood up, leaving the room in a hurry, unable to hold back her tears. Greg, in a fit of anger, stormed out in another direction, deciding to drown his frustrations at the nearest bar. In the silent hallway of the doctor's office, Lisa leaned against the wall, sobbing, while Greg disappeared into the distance, each facing the pain in their own way. Night had fallen when Greg stumbled into the house, unsteady and visibly drunk. Lisa, who was sitting on the couch waiting for him, quickly got up upon hearing the door open. "Where have you been?" she asked, trying to hide the concern in her voice. Greg, with a flushed face and bloodshot eyes, fixed his gaze on her and said bitterly, "Oh, now you care. After all, you're the problem in my life." Lisa recoiled, feeling the weight of his words. "Greg, I know it's hard for both of us, but we can—" "You're a weak and barren woman," Greg interrupted, advancing towards her with a pointed finger. "I have wasted years of my life with you." Shocked and hurt, Lisa tried to formulate a response, but the words escaped her, stuck in her throat. "I should have left a long time ago. You're responsible for everything that's wrong in my life," Greg continued, his voice rising with each word. Devastated, Lisa stepped back as Greg began to throw his things into a suitcase. She watched, paralyzed, as he prepared to leave. Finally, with the suitcase packed, Greg stood at the door, turned to Lisa with a look that mixed anger and disdain, and said, "Goodbye, Lisa. I hope you're happy with your miserable life." With those words, he left, slamming the door behind him, leaving Lisa alone in the echoing silence of the house, struggling to absorb the impact of what had just happened. Lisa remained motionless, staring at the closed door, the deafening sound of silence filling the room. She slowly slid down to the floor, her shoulders trembling with sobs. Every word from Greg echoed in her mind like blades cutting into her self-esteem. After a few minutes immersed in her pain, she finally managed to get up, walking slowly to the window to look out at the dark, empty street. "How can he blame me for something that's beyond our control?" she murmured to herself, her voice choked with sadness. "It's not my fault. It's not." At the bar, Greg sat at the counter, a glass of whiskey in hand, staring fixedly at the amber liquid, as if he could find the answers he was seeking there. The noise around him seemed distant, muffled by his own turbulent thoughts. "Are you okay, buddy?" asked the bartender, noticing his somber expression. Greg shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "You know when you spend your whole life planning something, and suddenly everything falls apart?" The bartender nodded, wiping a glass. "It happens more than you think, but drowning your sorrows won't rebuild anything, you know." "I don't know what else to do," confessed Greg, running a hand over his tired face. "I wanted a family, children. Now it feels like all of that was ripped away from me." Back at home, Lisa was picking up the pieces of her dignity. She picked up the phone and dialed a friend's number. "Carol, it's Lisa. I need someone to talk to," she said as soon as the call was answered, her voice still trembling. "Lisa, what happened? Are you crying?" Concern was evident in Carol's voice. "It's Greg. He's gone. Said terrible things, and he blamed me for us not being able to have children," Lisa poured out, the words coming out in a rush, "Oh, Lisa, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to come over?" Lisa hesitated for a moment before responding, "No, I just needed to talk to someone. I need to think for a bit." "Whatever you need, I'm here," Carol assured. Hanging up the phone, Lisa stared at her reflection in the hallway mirror. "I need to be strong," she told herself, a fragile determination beginning to take shape in her broken heart. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was determined to find her own peace, with or without Greg. Greg had moved into Julie's apartment, a vibrant young woman he had known for months. The atmosphere was charged with the tension of unspoken decisions and promises hanging in the air. "You finally left her, didn't you?" Julie asked, crossing her arms as she watched Greg unpack his things. Greg nodded, avoiding her gaze. "Yes, there was nothing left there for me. We were stuck." Julie approached and gently touched his arm. "And now? It's just us, right? You chose to be with me." Greg looked at her, his eyes revealing the uncertainty he felt. "Yes, Julie, I'm here." Meanwhile, Lisa found some small comfort in the support group she had started attending. The group met in a common room at the local church, chairs arranged in an inviting circle. She watched as others shared their stories, feeling a mixture of nervousness and relief at not being alone. When it was her turn, Lisa took a deep breath and began, "My husband recently left me. We couldn't have children, and it seems like it was too much for him." Sympathetic looks surrounded her, and a gentle voice intervened. "You're stronger than you think, Lisa." The owner of the voice was Peter, an older man, widowed, who had lost his wife a few years ago. He approached her after the meeting. "You're not alone in this," he said, offering a friendly smile. Lisa smiled back, feeling an instant connection. "Thank you, Peter. It means a lot to hear that." They began to talk after the meetings, finding comfort in each other's company. Peter shared his journey of grief and recovery, while Lisa talked about her struggle to find peace. Back at Julie's apartment, the reality of the new arrangement began to weigh on Greg. Julie, though happy to have him around, pressed for more commitment, something Greg wasn't ready to offer yet. "I just need time to figure things out," Greg explained, as Julie watched, frustrated. "And how long is that going to take, Greg? I don't want to just be someone you use to escape," she retorted, frustration clear in her voice. Greg sat down, running his hands through his hair. "I don't know, Julie. I really don't know." Meanwhile, the friendship between Lisa and Peter grew. They met for coffee after the meetings, walked in the local park, and shared details of their lives they never thought they would again. On one of these walks, Peter stopped and looked at Lisa. "You've brought so much light into my days, Lisa." She smiled, holding his hand. "You too, Peter. Much more than I could have hoped for." Months passed, and Greg and Julie's relationship faced increasing tensions. One quiet afternoon, as Julie flipped through a book, the silence was interrupted by the sound of her phone. It was the doctor with the results of his routine exams. "Miss Julie, I'm sorry to inform you, but the tests clearly show that Mr. Gregg is infertile," the voice on the other end of the line said. Julie felt her heart sink. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. "Yes, the tests are conclusive," the doctor confirmed. Hanging up the phone, Julie felt a mix of anger and betrayal. She confronted Greg when he came home that evening. "Did you know about this? About being infertile?" she shot as soon as he walked through the door. Greg stopped, surprised by the accusation. I found out recently. I didn't know how to tell you," he admitted, avoiding her gaze. "You knew I wanted children. How could you hide this from me?" Julie cried, tears beginning to well up in her eyes. Greg tried to approach her, but Julie recoiled. "I thought we could find a solution together," he tried to explain. "No, Greg, you lied by omission. This is not how I want to live," Julie said decisively. She packed her things and left the apartment that same night, leaving Greg alone with his thoughts and regrets. Meanwhile, the relationship between Lisa and Peter flourished. On a particularly sunny day as they walked in the park, Lisa shared how revitalized she felt. "Peter, being with you has made me believe in love again. You treat me with such kindness and respect," Lisa confessed, holding his hand. Peter smiled, squeezing her hand. "Lisa, you've brought me back to life. I feel blessed for every moment with you," he replied, his gaze full of affection. They continued their walk, talking about future plans, laughing, and enjoying each other's company, aware that they had found something special together, something that made them look to the future with hope and joy. Greg was at rock bottom, alone and desolate after Julie left. In a moment of desperation, he decided to visit Lisa, hoping for reconciliation or at least some comfort. Arriving at the house where so many memories resided, he knocked on the door, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. Lisa opened the door, surprised to see Greg there, his tired and dejected expression evident. "Lisa, I'm so sorry for everything. Can I come in?" Greg pleaded, his voice faltering. Hesitant, Lisa nodded, still in shock. "Okay, come in." Greg entered, looking around the house they once shared. "Lisa, I was a fool. I've lost everything now. Julie left me when she found out the truth about my infertility." Lisa listened in silence, her heart aching for his evident pain, but aware of her own scars. "I realized you were right about everything. I'm so sorry for hurting you," Greg continued, his words heavy with regret. Before Lisa could respond, the door opened again. It was Peter, who paused upon seeing Greg. "Is everything okay here, Lisa?" Peter asked, looking from Lisa to Greg. Lisa took a breath, strengthened by Peter's presence. "Yes, Peter. Greg was just apologizing." Turning to Greg, she continued, "Greg, I accept your apologies, but I've moved on. Peter and I, we're together now. I'm pregnant. We'll soon be parents to a beautiful girl. I hope you find peace and can learn from your mistakes." Greg looked at Peter, then at Lisa, seeing the truth in her words and the mutual support they shared. "I wish you both all the best," he said sincerely. "You both deserve to be happy." With a nod, Greg turned and left the house, gently closing the door behind him. Lisa and Peter embraced, finding comfort in the certainty of their love for each other. In the silence of the house, with Greg's departure, Peter whispered, "Let's start planning our future, together." Lisa smiled, the tears in her eyes now ones of joy, not sorrow,